Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest IMG podcast. My name's David Coughlin, and I'm joined by my co-founder, Richard.
Hello, how are you doing?
And this month on the podcast, we're really excited to be joined by a friend, a client, and an excellent all-round person, as well as an accountant. Apart from being an accountant, is generally okay. Thank you, and welcome, Shaun Walsh.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be with you. I'm the one in the top right, the handsome one in the top right hand corner.
You always got to get that in, Shaun.
But actually, on my screen, I'm in the top right. So that could be anybody. So thanks for that.
The wonders of Zoom. So thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And the reason why we were really excited to have Shaun on the podcast was we are big advocates of distributed working, flexible working, remote working. And Shaun, you've actually sort of been using this model for years. How long have you been working like this?
12, 15 years, I guess. So
Brilliant.
Everybody's walking around saying that COVID's a big change for them. For me, it's actually business as usual, and in some ways it's actually made my work life easier in that clients don't expect me to come and see them anymore. so
actually everybody's now caught up with you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. We were speaking to someone today, weren't we, David? They said that actually the world by COVID has caught up with their way of working, and it's pretty much like what you've said. You're probably ahead of COVID. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 15 years ago it was GoToMeeting, and I'm sure there's other ones around at the time. How on earth they've missed this COVID surge, and Zoom's captured it all. Somebody needs shooting on that business, but yeah, obviously now Zoom. But yeah, no, it's just we work on cloud-based systems, so it all works extremely well. Online. It's absolutely brilliant.
So that's brilliant. So tell us about your business. So what do you do? Where have you come from? What's your experience, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm a chartered accountant, former PwC, and I do strategic finance director work. I've got a number of different businesses, business growth services, where we work with clients. We work, again, I've mentioned about the cloud-based accounting system, Xero, and that really enables that whole remote working with clients piece. I'm just launching a coaching business growth institute to coach clients in financial management and managing profit and cash flow. And I'm doing acquisitions as a CFO for a private equity group. And we are hoping to complete on a 20 million turnover acquisition next Wednesday, if that goes well.
Wow, so pretty busy then.
Yeah, very much so. But really enjoying myself at the moment. And I guess the whole, theme in terms of what I do with clients and for my own businesses is build, buy, exit. So we're looking at helping look at the current business, getting that really streamlined and as a profit and cash flow machine, and optimizing that, buying other businesses to build out the offering, and then helping business owners exit for high value over sort of a 5-year or more period.
So it's really interesting, and I guess. I know your background in PwC and consulting and all that kind of stuff, but I guess the services you offer feel really hands-on, sort of face-to-face, very personal. So how have you managed to carve a niche out where you can sort of have a remote team, work online, etc.? How does that work for you?
Well, I mean, very, very well. If I think about the clients first, when you're a finance director and you're helping a business owner grow from A to B, there's often problems in the business. It's distress. They've got cash flow issues. And actually, the relationship with business owners is extremely close and intimate. It's almost like marriage counselling sometimes. And 12 months ago, I would have said, yes, the online stuff helps, but face-to-face helps as well. And of course it does. But I've got clients that I've never met, and we are extremely close, and I would count them friends as well as clients. So it's just the whole, and I suspect the COVID thing has helped that in that regard, in that people are much more expecting to relate online. So it's it's very hands-on, and it's very intimate and close. It's not a hands-off thing at all. So yes, that's clients. Staff, I've got some staff I've been working with for 3 years. I've never met in person.
You're joking?
No. I've got staff. Before the podcast, I was thinking about where my staff actually are. I've got staff in Spain and France, expatriates, and I've got staff in South Africa for different bits, and access to a big team of accountants and bookkeepers in the Philippines. And I've also got people I work with a few miles away, yourself included, Dave, but somebody in Ilkeston and Lisa, and so it really is international. And because, as I say, we've got the common systems, and I haven't met some of them. I mean, in fact, most of them have not met face to face in person.
I mean, that's go on. Sorry, I was going to say.
No, go for it. Yeah.
I think the thing is, what really kind of crystallised the model to me, testament to how it works, is that clearly you introduced it into Sue to help us sort of with our accountancy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And me and Dave were on a call with Sue, and we were just like we are now. And I think she randomly dropped in the conversation, "Oh, it's quite sunny today," and I was looking out my window going, "Really? It's like." And this is probably our third meeting with her, and she turned out and said, "Oh, I'm in Spain," and I was almost like dumbfounded and gobsmacked, because it had no impact on the service or anything like that. As far as I'm concerned, she was. Well, I naturally assumed she was in the UK, because that's the default thing, and it's only when people tell you, it's like, wow.
Well, it's now you know that she'll probably start winding you up by saying, "Oh, it's 42 degrees on my patio."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a call with Sylvie, the graphic designer based in South Africa, and I was getting all excited because it's spring, and I was like, "The sun's out and it's lovely. It's 13 degrees." But yeah, it's autumn here. It's 34.
I think that's another aspect of it, actually, because taking point, Sylvia, a graphic designer in South Africa. I mean, you've seen some of the stuff she does, Dave, and she is absolutely awesome. And the ability to access best in class talent, and it's only I don't need a full-time graphic designer. It's just a few £100 a month. But she's doing some phenomenal stuff to support the launch of the Business Growth Institute, and just the ability to be able to get that talent on tap when you need it, and it's based on how good the talent is, not where they're located.
That's exactly
100%.
Location. Being sort of working in the old corporate world, you would constantly compromise yourself by location, and it would be like, "You're brilliant. Do you fancy moving from Oxford to Leicester for this job?" It was like, "No chance, no." But now you would just be like, "Great."
Nothing wrong with Leicester, though.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm not saying there is, but yeah, okay, hang on. That might have just alienated Leicester people. Didn't mean that.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, when, and it'll be very applicable to your business, when somebody says they want an accountant, that can mean a lot of different things. It might mean a bookkeeper, it might mean a management accountant, it might be somebody that manages cash, treasury, it might be an FD that does the forecasting, it might be somebody who can go out and raise money. And those, if you are stuck with one person, if you can only afford one person, trying to get that range of skills in one person is well nigh impossible.
Yeah.
But being able to get a few hours of an FD and a few hours of a management accountant and 3 days a week of a bookkeeper for the same sort of budget, because it's a distributed team, just means that you're probably spending a lot less, and you get, the precise amount of skills you need for that particular function. And I think, being able to, break it down from one person to multiple people for that role, really, it empowers maximizes the capability, big start in my world. And in your world with marketing, I mean, marketing, I think if you dabble, you lose. You have to have the best Facebook marketer, the best Google, the best of these things to really break through in those technologies. And the spread of skills in your world is even greater than mine. And the payoff for expertise is extremely high, and the tax for dabbling is prohibitive.
Yeah, massively. I think that was something we called out on our website in terms of like this atomization of marketing. It started out, I mean, when I first got into it, I was a digital marketer, did a bit of everything, SEO, pay-per-click. There wasn't really much social, but you just kind of pick it up. And now each of those sort of disciplines, which I've got a little bit of knowledge in, you can spend your whole life just in one of those things. And I can't keep up, which is why, our model works well, because we've got lots of different people that are very bloody good at that in all of the different areas. So I guess the parallels between our businesses in terms of setup are, undeniable. And I think it's really encouraging to hear that your clients are sort of seeing exactly the same benefits that we see. I guess what would be really interesting for us to discuss is what's going on out there. So we've obviously recently we were working corporate side, we were working client side in a business, and now we're doing this. But what's happening elsewhere? So what's happening with your clients? Were they making any moves towards this sort of model before COVID, or is that the sort of lit the touch paper that's changed how your clients operate?
I mean, case in point, really, we're looking at acquisition about 15 months ago, a firm of engineers, and that I'll have to be a little bit careful what I say here, but that it was sort of break even, not making a lot of money. And you looked at the P&L, and the rent was about 15 grand a month, which was about 10% of turnover. So 10% of your net profit was going to a landlord, which if I was in that business would really piss me off. Excuse me if I shouldn't be swearing, but
it's fine. We'll put adult appropriate on there. It's fine.
Disclaimer on Shaun's podcast.
Yeah. So I sort of said, well, we've got to make some money in this business, and particularly we're going to buy in. The office rent is 10% of turnover. What can we do about that? And I said, can we work remotely? Can we reduce the size of the office so that we can save money? Blah blah blah. And there was a lot of pushback from the engineering directors to say, well, that might work for other businesses, but we need the big 3D maps on the table. Everybody needs to look around and see what the drawings are telling them. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it was no go. 3 weeks later, COVID hit, and about 3 weeks after that, the business was functioning fully from home on Microsoft Teams, it was the burning platform, right? They had to do it, and I think that's what's the whole COVID thing. What I've seen is those things that companies who were not open to remote working and some of the cloud-based type stuff that we're very familiar with, they were forced into it. actually found that it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Now, in this business, I don't know if you want to. Shall I just tell you a bit more about how that's developed, Dave?
Yeah.
So in this business, so we've managed then to restructure the office so that cost has now reduced from 15 grand to 4.5 grand.
Wow.
So, that is 7% net profit savings over a very small period of time. We've had to remodel the office as a bit of capex to get to that, but we've now right-sized the office to their team, and we're working remotely. It's all on Microsoft Azure and Ignite and Microsoft 365, all that type of stuff. There are problems. It's not so easy for everybody in their different homes. I mean, some people have got good home environments and some haven't. We had to buy laptops for everybody. That was a bit costly, but and where we're getting to is that actually we're going to be offering a hybrid arrangement where people can work a couple of days in the office and 2 or 3 days at home, that sort of thing. I mean, I think there are some businesses like mine, probably like yours, where you can go all the way and it works, and you can make it work to be fully remote. But I think some businesses, and particularly the ones that have been a bit more traditional in the past, they do want FaceTime with their staff, and sometimes the information flow can take a lot longer virtually than if you were just face to face. So there's so in that business, it's based in central London. Massive savings. The staff are even not having to do an hour and a half travel each way. For example. But in that particular business, the hybrid thing of 1 or 2 days in the office a week with a bit of FaceTime, I think that takes some of the edges off the inefficiencies that come with working remotely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the phrase that you coined there, sort of right sizing, is probably the critical term, isn't it? Because it is about having. I think there's definitely going to be a need for space, and I know obviously Richard and I have set this remotely. I haven't seen him for 6 months, and I'm desperate to go and see people because I'm looking at these 4 walls. It's crazy, but we can go anywhere, and I think this is absolutely going to be that hybrid. But I think, like you say, it's about having the space, which is not prohibitively expensive for your business, which is appropriate. And there's a friend of mine who works in retail in London, in central London. He works in the head office for a fashion brand, and they were sort of bursting at the seams of their office, and they were kind of, the lease is up in a couple, need to get a bigger office. Then COVID hit, everybody was sent to work remotely. All of a sudden, they're not moving. They're going to keep the office the same size. Everyone's got a hot desk, and they're just going to sort of come in and go as they please. So that model for that business now is shifted in exactly the same way you just.
I think it's attitudinal though, isn't it? In the fact that, and I do get that. I get what you're saying, Shaun, but actually there will be that need for a hybrid. And actually, we've talked before about how the younger generation, how are they going to learn how to interact with people if it's kind of sort of remote? But to my point of view, a lot of it is attitudinal. And actually, you meet sort of leaders or owners of businesses who just go, it's just not possible to work from home, and COVID just blew that apart, and they were forced down that change. And something my dad always used to say to me was like, do you believe it, or were you just told it? And actually, I think there's a massive difference there. It's like, oh, you can't work from home. Yeah, but what's driving that? And a lot of it is unfounded belief, really. And COVID, bang, it's got to happen. And now it's like, actually, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, and as people have said in the news, COVID's brought the changes that were going to happen anyway, just a lot faster. That's absolutely right. I mean, I think the some of the industries like marketing, and there's a whole stream in my world of the financial accountants and that type of stuff who are very cloud driven. There's a whole early adopter thing in my world, but there are the traditional minded people in my world, but also in some industries will come a lot slower. But COVID has really forced that upon them in a way that left to their own devices wouldn't have happened for a long time.
There's definitely ease in certain things. If I go back to the old corporate world, what I would call shared services, they're the easy ones to move. So your finance, your marketing, your HR, your legal teams, there is no need potentially for them to ever be in an office again. But your call centres and that takes time to do that. But there's certain simple ones which you can do and probably will never potentially go back post this.
Well, certainly there's, from what I see in the businesses that I'm involved with, there's a real fed upness with COVID and frustration, and people want to go out and see people again, and particularly sales guys who want to go out and meet customers and that type of stuff. So I think there is clearly going to be as the lockdown hopefully comes off, there'll be a bit of a swing back the other way, I guess. But I don't see this changing at all. That sort of the genie going back into the bottle. I think it ain't going anywhere. That isn't. Some of my colleagues that go into London to some of the offices there, they're saying that the tubes are absolutely empty. So it's just a bit like a ghost town. So it will reverse as lockdown comes off. But I personally don't see. Put it this way, I wouldn't want to be in commercial property in London at the moment as a business. I think that would be not a great place to be.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on sort of like the sort of wider, I guess, economic sort of things that have happened as a result? Because I guess over the sort of COVID period, feels like there's been plenty of sort of money around and support through the government. When that sort of winds back a bit, what are your views on what might happen there?
Well, during COVID, we've all heard of industries that have absolutely been decimated. Retail, hospitality, airlines, etc. And when the tectonic plates move so aggressively against you, it almost doesn't matter how good at management you are. You may well be going down. There's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of businesses, some of my own and business I'm involved with, have actually done quite well out of COVID, not least because of the government support around, which I have to say has been absolutely, in my mind, has been absolutely fantastic, and has stopped a lot of companies going under. And again, the client I was mentioning earlier, the engineering consultancy, with 20 staff, London wages, with a drop down of turnover, we could not have kept people on.
Yeah.
But the furlough scheme enabled us to manage the cost to the revenue and kept those jobs. And it would have been terrible to lose them because they're real jobs and they will come back. So I think the government support's been phenomenal. I think some companies have actually got more cash than they've ever had before, and they're actually looking for things to do with it.
Yeah.
So, the balance sheet of UK government has shifted a lot of cash to the balance sheets of individual companies. And I think, the companies that's the situation for, and as the demand picks up, I think you're going to see a lot of activity in the next 6 months, 12 months, but also clearly the ones that have got weak balance sheets, there's going to be a lot of companies go bust as the support gets lifted off as well. So it's a real mixed bag, I think.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost it's accelerating the shift from what you class as sort of traditional to modern business, and I guess that's across all sectors, all the high streets. I mean, flipping out, no idea what the high street's going to look like. John Lewis again announced shutting another 8 stores, and like you said, commercial property. Who's going to pay for that? The massive hoovering up that these online retailers have done of Debenhams and Topshop and all that.
Yeah.
So there's a shift there, but then also you've got on the other end of the spectrum, like Goldman Sachs. I mean, what's his name? David Solomon. He's like the antithesis or the antichrist for the remote flexible working sort of model. And has stated that this is just an abnormal.
I think he said aberration, didn't he?
Yeah. And I mean, it is that my view is it's a bit of an old school sort of view, and some of the stuff coming out of Goldman Sachs at the moment is nuts. But is that the old world talking, and do you think that's going to get eaten up? I mean, Goldman Sachs is going to get eaten up.
My view on this,
the model.
My view on this is that businesses need to listen. So Shaun's just talked a lot about, businesses make this decision to do that and to do this, to do it. That decision, like COVID, may be forced on them, because actually, is there been a shift in power here? So loads of recent research has come out, and again, there's a difference between saying you're going to do it and doing it, but basically, in the recent survey, half of Brits have turned around and said if they were forced to go back to the office post the pandemic, they would resign, and they would try and find a company who adopted, let's call it 21st century business practices. I think it's the world is changing, and actually the power is changing, and if you want the best people, like you talked about right at the beginning of this podcast, if you want the best people, you've got to attract them in the right way. That used to be wage, that used to be perks. Actually now it's probably about flexible working and home based remotely for a percentage of your working week.
Well, I think a couple of things there. The value transfer from old business practice type companies to new business practice type companies, I think, is absolutely huge. I think as you say, the power of the employee. I think they realise they can have a life now as well as a career.
Yeah.
And the Goldman Sachs model, I mean, you've seen some of the, and perhaps for those who haven't heard about the Goldman Sachs, the chairman's come out and said that remote working is an aberration and everyone's going to get back in the office as soon as possible. But there's been stuff coming out of Goldman Sachs after that as to how many hours some of those people are working. They're saying, can I have a cap on my hours of 100 hours a week, please?
Yeah.
And, okay, that's young people who, they're just starting out in their career for a few years, etc. But I just think there is a real change with people actually wanting a life.
Yeah.
And not just, money and a career. And it's actually a problem with professional service firms, and actually trying to find nowadays people that want to buy the current partners out of the business and become directors and owners. People don't want to do that so much anymore. I mean, that was the normal thing when I grew up.
Yeah.
You wanted to become a partner in an accounting firm or whatever it was. But people are more valuing flexibility, time with the family, living locally, blah, blah, blah. And I think that will be something that's a very key trend in the years to come.
You said something similar to that the other day, Rich, didn't you, when we were chatting about sort of wage? You can't just throw money at the problem. So everyone says, the folk at Goldman Sachs, they do 100 hours a week, but they earn really well. But actually, when you work out what the hourly wage is, it's like just minimum wage. You're just being sold the dream almost. And I think, Rich, you said that sort of it's just money's a sticking plaster. So you can hate your job, or you've got to grind, and you can get paid well for it, but it only goes so far, and you just there's more to life for that. And I think that's the difference probably between the new and the old sort of model.
It's definitely
even when I started at Price Waterhouse, you'd leave home at 7, and if you got home before 7, you'd be lucky, and it's probably more like 8 or 9, and then you've got professional exams to study for, and we did it, and everybody was very motivated to get qualified, blah blah blah. My daughter, who joined Deloitte, and she was working in the tax department in Birmingham some years ago, and she used to phone me up and say, Dad, I'm just trying to get out of the office. It's 5:30. It's really frustrating. I'm still in the office, and I'm thinking, you're in Deloitte. This is nothing like Price Waterhouse was 30 years ago. People want different things, and frankly, I think the values of people wanting different things is absolutely right. We work to live, not live to work, and actually, my generation, I think there's probably a bit more of that other value, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. But again, it goes back to the world is evolving, and like you say, that there are leaders like yourself who are adapting, and some people don't adapt. But actually, I can remember when I was younger and I got given a mobile phone as a job, and I was like, and it was rubbish, but I was like, I got a mobile phone. Now, if I employed somebody who was 20 and I gave them a Nokia, they'd be like, I want an iPhone. So it's just different sort of expectations about what people want, and actually businesses need to change or else they die.
But I think there is a Maslow hierarchy of needs sort of perspective here, because as Dave will know, I lived in India for 12 years, and I don't know what the population is, 1 billion people or whatever. There's no welfare state, and there's people are desperate to get a decent job, and it means an awful lot for your personal securities. And when you're at the part of the Maslow hierarchy where you're trying to fulfill your basic needs, you haven't got the luxury of making some of the choices that perhaps we do in a developed economy, in good jobs, etc. But in terms of this marketplace, I think employers have got to be a lot more flexible and listening to their staff and working around what they want to do.
Yeah,
it's really, really interesting actually, and it's probably sort of the last one, I guess, for me. Just a thinking point, I guess, or a talking point is are we almost? Will this change actually do us out of jobs? Because what we've all said is that actually our jobs can be anywhere, and yes, we're all jolly, think we cracked it, that we've got the life and the lifestyle and we're making money and everything great. But actually, to your point, Shaun, if there's 1 billion people in India, and it doesn't matter that they're in India and they can do our jobs in accounting or marketing or anything, is it inevitable actually that our roles will move elsewhere?
Well, I think that's the iceberg, really, of the 9/10 of the iceberg that are under the surface. What's on the surface, COVID, we've seen, we understand the implication of that, etc., and it's changed things, etc. Actually, what's coming in terms of AI and automation and all of that type of stuff, I mean, I think I saw something like 20 million jobs in the UK will go, I mean, I think there is a real competitive. You've got to really think carefully about what you're going to be doing over the next 5 or 10 years, and whether that job's still going to be there or not. My answer, and accounting is a key one there. That a lot of work is going offshore through software, AI, etc. My response to that is, I've just got to be at the head of I've just got to be at the front end of what's happening, because I've got far more chance of surviving and actually embracing those changes and taking advantage of them, rather than being a laggard and actually getting your legs cut off, which is exactly what's going to happen if you don't adapt.
Yeah. Super. Really, really interesting chat. Great insight from from you there, Shaun. Thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
And thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. There's more to come. And of course, if you want to join our community, if you're an awesome marketer based anywhere in the world, then visit the website, theimgroup.co.uk/join. If you'd like to work with us and our community of marketing experts, then again, have a look at the website, theimgroup.co.uk, and we'll be in touch to see how we can help. Thanks so much for your time today, guys. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.